Have you ever looked at your life and wondered, why this family, Lord? Why this pain and struggle? Growing up in a toxic family can feel like living in an unending storm, place where the very people meant to nurture and protect you instead wound and confuse you. It's exhausting and heartbreaking, and for many, it feels like an impossible burden to bear. But let me encourage you today. Your story is far more extraordinary than you may realize. Being born into a toxic family is neither a punishment nor an accident. It is not God abandoning you. It is part of a profound and divine planner, masterful design that only He can weave into beauty. Toxic families may feel like fires that consume, but in God's hands, that fire becomes the forge that strengthens and refines. Isaiah 41 reminds us, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Even when life feels unbearable, even when the chaos of your upbringing tries to strip away your hope, God is steady. His presence doesn't just guide you through the fire, it transforms you within it. C.S. Lewis eloquently said in The Problem of Pain, "Pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world." The toxic family environment that you have endured may feel like a battleground, but it is also the very place where God begins to whisper His plans for your life. Take Joseph, for example, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. Joseph's family wasn't just toxic, they outright rejected him. Yet, even in the darkest moments, Joseph trusted God's plan. When he finally stood before his brothers, he declared in Genesis 50, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." That same God who worked through Joseph is working through you. He takes the broken pieces of our lives and reshapes them into something beautiful. Isaiah 48 tells us, "See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." A toxic family can feel like that furnace, hot, relentless, and painful. But what does a furnace do? It burns away impurities, leaving behind something stronger, purer, and more valuable. This refining process isn't just about endurance. It's about transformation. As C.S. Lewis writes in Mere Christianity, imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps, you can understand what He is doing. But presently, He starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably and does not seem to make sense. What on earth is He up to? The explanation is that He is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. He intends to come and live in it Himself. Jeremiah 29 reassures us of this truth. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." The pain you've experienced is not wasted. It is woven into His divine plan, shaping you into someone who can rise above dysfunction and break generational cycles. Breaking those cycles is no small task. It requires courage, self-awareness, and unwavering faith. But Philippians 4 reminds us, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." God doesn't call you to this task without equipping you with the power to overcome it. Think about Moses. Born into oppression and raised in Pharaoh's palace, he carried the weight of his people's suffering. God didn't randomly choose Moses to lead Israel out of Egypt. He prepared him through his unique upbringing. Similarly, Your toxic family environment has given you insight into patterns of dysfunction that need healing. Your first-hand experience isn't a curse, it's your training ground. C.S. Lewis said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." You may not have chosen the family you were born into, but you have the power to rewrite the story. Choosing forgiveness over bitterness, love over anger, and faith over despair creates a legacy not just for you, but for generations to come. Jesus' lineage was filled with broken people, murderers, adulterers, and outcasts. Yet God redeemed it all, bringing forth the Savior of the world. If He can do that, imagine what He can do through your story. So hold your head high. The furnace may have been hot, but you are emerging as gold. God's plans for you are good, and His purpose will prevail. Stand firm, knowing that you are chosen, refined, and destined for greatness. You were not just born into a family. You were called to transform it. And through that transformation, you will leave a legacy of hope, healing, and freedom. As you move forward, remember this. The pain you've endured is the foundation of your purpose. Trust that God, in His infinite wisdom, placed you exactly where you needed to be. Let us not despise our painful beginnings. Instead, let us embrace them as part of the process that refines us into vessels of God's glory.